nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to make a motion to approve the June 19th agenda as presented. Seeking a second.
Before we,
Can you hear me? I can.
yeah, before we second that, is this the right time? Or is there a time that I can ask why the snow removal bid was?
After the second is then we can do discussions.
Okay, very good.
So, the second? Discussions.
All right, so yeah, I just have a question or looking for an explanation as to why the snow removal bid was.
We're gonna
removed from this
repost it
agenda. Okay,
with the correct information, so they give the opportunity for others and then to put it on in July. At that time, it just had Chris's information and he did get the correct square footage,
right.
but we thought it would be appropriate to repost it with the correct
So
information.
by the time we got the correct square footage, it was like this week.
Right.
So in order to repost with the correct square footage of the projected new parking lot, as much as the bus loop and all of that, there wouldn't have been enough time to repost and have it on the agenda. So that's why it's not.
Very good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Make sure it's all done.
And I just should have explained that better. That's on me.
Any other discussions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, motion approved 5-0. Going on to number 5, approval of consent items. We have the May 15th regular board meeting and then the June 3rd special board meeting minutes. I think we'll do them all together. Okay. Susan for 5B.
We started at the beginning of the month for the Community State Bank cash account with $58,245.74. At the end of the month, $113,548.53. Community State Bank credit card account, we started the month with $6,492.76 and ended the month with $23,927.41. Community State Bank Capital Improvement Trust Fund 46 started and ended the month with $3,000. Petty cash started and ended the month with $500. Petty cash for the school office started and ended the month with $200. Cash with the fiscal agent, and as a reminder, this is for the referendum capital building improvements. We started the month out with $8,257,976.60. Ended the month with $7,907,903.98. The local government investment pool, we started out the month with $2,796,571.76 and ended the month with $1,543,128.23. For a grant asset total in the beginning of the month of $11,122,986.86 and ended the month with $9,592,208.15. Any questions?
Is that where I ask like check questions, or is there a different report?
That's
That's C.
Oh,
Right
sorry.
next.
Okay.
Moving on to 5C, accounts payable bills.
We had checks from May 10th, 2024 to June 13th, 2024. Check numbers 102792 to 103134. Wire transfers 202300240 to 202300267. And the grand total of $1,292,967.93. Any questions?
Yes.
There are actually, it would have been nice to get all this information with at least a few days advance notice, because a couple hours, there's way too much here. Actually, I think this one was on Monday. But I was trying to digest everything that came in last minute today, and it's a lot. But I have a lot of questions in here individually, like we had mileage reimbursement for someone at $800. Where did they go? That's a lot of
So,
mean,
a lot of times what people will do is they'll, like I do this personally, is instead of turning it in every
$800
single
is
time,
mileage or-
like every single time you go somewhere,
Yeah.
turning it in every single time, I keep a tally for like the whole year. I don't know, that's not me, I haven't turned mine in yet, Sue gets mad at me.
See
But
what I'm
like,
saying, it seems like, I mean, I'm sorry,
Well, the-
I can drive to
There
my
is-
house and back twice in
There
North
is one for
Carolina.
$800 that we pay
I'm saying for the entire year,
for special education transportation to the
That's the
parent.
one you have highlighted, so that's
Oh.
sped transportation?
Let's Sue answer
Yeah.
that.
That's for special ed transportation that we are required to provide.
So
And
that's
it's
a
cheaper to
student.
pay the parent than it is to pay a bus service.
Okay. Okay.
So if they don't take private transportation and the parent, there's a reimbursement that you have to have.
Okay, and I have a lot of questions like that, and I don't know that this meeting is the place to ask all of those. But these have all been paid already, correct? Which seems a little backwards that we approve it after the fact, to me, but maybe I'm solo in that. But in the interest of being fiscally responsible, I think we should review this stuff ahead of time. My opinion.
Great, you come in with me.
We can talk about that.
For the vendor.
Is that your only question? Is that your other?
Well, like I say, I have probably 30 of them, and I don't want to sit here and eat up 20 minutes asking individual things. I think I could probably just, right?
You can.
Can I come in?
You can come in with Tina. She comes in and look over the bills before we pay them.
Okay. She sees all of these before they get paid? Okay.
I wouldn't know if I see them all. I just get a stack of them.
Well, I can ask questions just from the report where I have them highlighted.
Yeah.
And then I think once I know what it is, I'll be more comfortable in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
and this, and just, I don't wanna make an excuse, but this month was, normally you would have that information by Friday afternoon, so you have much longer to do that. To look, I mean, that's our usual deadline is to get that in. We had a couple of requests this month that happened and it was late and, I own it, so I apologize. if
Well,
it
one was
late.
my fault, but it was
Yeah.
fortuitous that it didn't actually.
Yeah,
I just-
no, but you guys are always welcome to come in and look at those. I don't know if we, I mean, we don't necessarily have a policy, but we've had, especially, you know, for those of you that are newer to the board, we've always had that, yeah, where does this come from? Where does that go? Why is this that much? And, if we don't have that specific report right in front of us, it becomes difficult to answer, right? So, but
Okay,
there's an answer.
all right.
Yeah.
I emailed like on Monday codes and just, because I didn't understand some of the special ed coding too, so that's.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the email to Mrs. Rogers is a great way to go about it. I know I've looking at these pretty closely for 2 years, and I think that report's been out there now for about 3 years. But it's out there every single month on the agenda. And I think once you're looking at it month after month after month, you have a good feel for
Yeah.
some of those questions that you might have.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Okay.
Are you done with 5C?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
done.
Moving on to 5D.
All right, this month for personnel hires and resignations, we have one of each. The resignation, and I, hoping I'm saying her name right, I always screw it up, but Stephanie Heisley,
Yeah.
was going back and forth and back and forth. Stephanie is a first grade teacher for us, and towards the end of the year, you could tell she was struggling as to whether she was gonna stay at home, be a mom with her little one, or come back to work in the fall. Well, she had her little one and fell in love and decided to stay at home with her little one. So she has resigned. We have posted the position, so we wish Stephanie the best of luck. And I know it was a tough decision for her, and she did come and say goodbye to everybody at the end of the year celebration, so that was nice. And She has already committed to come back and subbing, but as we all know with little ones, sometimes that's a little difficult, but I know she's torn with that decision. The hire for this evening isn't, is something that we've discussed before, was as we dug into our contracted services, we had noticed that there was a lot of perhaps improvement for financial growth there, and especially with all of our different therapies that we do and that we needed. So what we ended up doing is we looked at each of those individually, and our occupational therapist, what she was making and what we were paying her or what we were paying the company was just substantially different, right? So we brought to her, say, what about you just work for Bristol School and you make about the same money or a little bit more, and we end up saving a lot of money. Not only this year, we'll probably save between $2,000 and $3,000, but in the long run, we look back and these therapy services are increasing their prices 7, 8, 10% as they go on each year. So my recommendation is to hire Mrs. Elizabeth Delamat this evening as our occupational therapist for Bristol School instead of paying the therapy company that she works for. So that's it. Any questions about those two?
So then, can I make a motion to approve the consent items for 5 as presented?
Taking a second. Any discussions? Nope. All in favor? Say aye. Any nays? Motion carried 5-0. Moving on to 6, which is the president's report. I just want to let everybody know that I've been talking more and more with Bill from UW-Madison. He's working on the July 8th workshop and the retreat. And I'm sorry, July 9th, my apologies. Moving along very well. I think everyone will be very happy with what he has to present to us. I've been learning a lot and learning how much we can improve our board meetings. Definitely. So very excited for that to happen. Moving on to number 7, athletic and activities reports.
Yeah, we usually do this in June. Mr. Koshal and others had some, and like I tried to tell them, especially this time of year, is to get away from this place for a while. You go be with your family. So he made some slides for us tonight, just to look at some different highlights of the years of this year's athletics. So if you look at, I won't read them all to you, but that's how many athletes went out this year. If you can see, we had a record number of cross-country athletes, 61 students. That is the one where we do allow all the way down to 5th grade. So kids really enjoy and go out for that. Plus, any of you that know Mrs. Sturridge know how much fun and energy that she has, so the kids gravitate to her. You know, we've had in just about every sport, you know, it always is tough to make cuts, but it's a really good sign of a strong program if you do, right? I mean, when you're having 60 some girls go out for volleyball, but you only have 30 plus uniforms, you know, it's really hard to tell a 7th or 8th grader that they can't play on the team. But unfortunately, we only have 2 gyms and most other schools only have 1. But it's a sign of how much our kids really are involved and how much fun and positive experience that they're having, and that obviously goes to you know, Mr. Koshel and all the coaches and all those that are participating in the athletic program. So if you look at this, 52% of our 5th grade graders have participated, and that's, I mean, obviously when you have 5th through 8th, that's a little bit more. You don't have 5th graders can only go out for one sport, so that really knocks that number down even a little bit more. So it's pretty neat for signups. We've had at least half of our kids sign up for at least one sport or another. Some celebrations, boys cross country was first place at our own invitational here, which was exciting. The girls basketball team arguably had the best season in Bristol history, going undefeated and winning not only the conference but several other tournaments along the way. The boys C team has an exciting future. They're our sixth grade, most are our sixth grade boys. They went undefeated this year. Bristol Cheer won, I don't know how many different awards at the Weekland Cheer Invite. The volleyball team won the feeder school invite out at Central High School, which was a first time thing for us. And I'll show you a picture of Lana here in a little bit, which might be one of the coolest athletic achievements in Bristol history, to be honest. She jumped 5'1". This is a picture in the middle of her jump. She not only set a school record, but the conference record. And that same day, they had the Southern Lakes Conference Championship, which is Union Grove, Wilmot, Westosha Central, all of the local area schools. She would have won the conference meet as an eighth grader. So pretty impressive. And those of you that know Lana, she's got a bright future in whatever athletic endeavors she picks, whether it be basketball, soccer, track and field, volleyball, all four. She might be the most celebrated female athlete in Bristol history. So we're excited for her future. And Mr. Cochelle just wanted to give a shout out to the Booster Club. They do 5 or 6 different fundraisers. Obviously, Kona Ice, Lake George Lodge donates a portion of their sales one evening. The Timber Ridge Family Event, the home game concessions, and then the Bristol Shootout is our biggest athletic fundraiser. Where now we're doing apparel, the concession stand with the new concession stand, the cafeteria, the whole deal. We made over $6,000 just in those 2 nights, that Friday night and Saturday during the day, which is huge for us. And that all goes back to kids. 100% goes back to kids and athletics. And then just a picture there of our girls who won the feeder school volleyball championship. So obviously there's a lot that goes into that with coaches, workers, booster clubs, volunteers, fans, everybody that supports. So, go Renegades.
Just a shout out to Mr. Cochelle, number one, and the Booster Club. The Booster Club has come so far over the last 3, 4, 5 years under those individuals that you noted.
Yeah. When I first started as associate principal, we didn't have a booster club. It had completely dismantled it. So the fact that that's back up and running, and I mean, Whitney and Lauren are here throwing sodas and hot dogs in on Friday afternoon and sweating their butts off, and it's really neat. And like I said, I would say well over $10,000 raised, and they're constantly just looking for ways that what can we pay for? Can we buy new uniforms? Can we send the kids on a trip? Can we, buy new softball bats? Whatever it might be, all of that money has gone back to kids, which is really neat.
What's nice when you go through the checks that Joanna was referencing, there's so many 121 line items because of that money.
All right, congratulations all athletes. It's kind of nice to hear. Moving on to number 8, district reports. Jack.
All right, I won't go through all of the celebrations. I'll just kind of put them up. We had some pretty awesome celebrations. Sure. Oh, I think I have them separate. But, oh, shit. I mean, concert after concert, Six Flags, graduation after graduation. 8th grade graduation went on without a hitch again. Thank you for those that participated and came. Mr. Murphy and his band, that was like, I don't know, listening to a high school advanced band when they play at graduation, it's just something. And they've obviously gone on to every different, competition and won every award possible. But I think the one thing that besides all of that, at those neat end of the year celebrations, is we brought back the 8th grade Washington DC trip this year. And literally every single person that I talked to could not say one bad word about it. Logistics were good. The teachers said there was 0 behavior problems. The transportation went well. The only thing that they said is it got a little dicey because they were coming in to Milwaukee and something happened with the plane or the runway or something, and they had to turn around and land in Detroit and then come back. So I think the runway they were supposed to come on had something going on, but literally they visited as much as you can visit in the days that they were there. They got to see, which everybody came back sore and tired and with blisters on their feet from walking, but they got to see the Smithsonian, the George Washington, Mount Vernon, the Capitol building, you name it, they saw it. So I think Mrs. Ringsby does the vast majority of that work, and we've already got nearly 50 families that are interested in going back next year already. So I think they said that if we get, I can't remember what it is, if we get up to 75 people, we could invite parents as well. But if we get up to a certain amount of people, they could go with 2 buses. So
Was it 50 kids? 50 was
45
two?
students and I think 5
Yeah.
adults or whatever it was, something like that. So, yeah, and then 5 days, they said that the company that they picked, there's always, it's kind of one of those you get what you pay for deals, that you can get the cheap discount prices, but you don't nearly get the quality of service that they got. So they went up with a little bit of a higher tier company, but they said it was the best decision that they made by far because literally the kids had more than enough to eat. They had great transportation. The bus driver stayed right at the hotel with them, so if all of a sudden 30 people decided they wanted to go out to dinner or go check out an amusement park or whatever it was, they could go do it because they had the transportation to do it. So anyways, I just wanted to give a special shout out to that trip and how well it went and how proud I am of all of that, because what a neat experience for a 13 or 14-year-old.
What did the rest of the 8th graders do?
They stayed back and had a whole different experience. Went to a couple different museums. Ended up going to Great America one day. So it was about half and half. Half the kids stayed and half the kids went. And then I won't talk about the other few, but there was a couple that didn't get to experience much. We'll just leave it at that.
As long as everybody made it back, okay.
Yeah. I think I'll have to ask the story again, but they were literally over Lake Michigan there, turn around and go back.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right, next. These are a little bit hard to see because it's still in PDF form, but I don't know if any of you had a chance to go on the west side of the building. But if you see this one here, let's see, this one's it's a little better. This is the main office door here. If you can see my cursor, the old main office door. This is the hallway here. That's like after day 3 of demolition. If you guys want to take a look at the cafeteria floor before you go, it is completely finished. It looks amazing. It's about as high quality. It wasn't cheap, but it's about as high quality. It's not the old bucket of gray paint and the spreckles that you throw down from the Menards rack. It's like the real deal. Believe me, I saw the price tag, but there's 850 kids going in there every single day, all day, with eating and spilling and cleaning and everything else. So
Dirty shoes.
this is actually outdated at this point. because this is completely gone. You see this is the old playground. And then the entire building here, this is the library, but the entire building is getting new ceiling tiles updated, all of that electric, all of that stuff is being run. So even in the places that aren't being physically remodeled, all of that will look like this with the nice clean ceiling tiles, new lighting, new switches, new wireless access points, all of that stuff. So this is kind of, if you can see here, I know it's hard to see, that's the new cafeteria floor. You can kind of see it, but this is before they put the extra epoxy down and vacuumed and all that stuff, which they've been working on the last few days. This is the old main office. Start some of the framing going on that side of the building already. I'm not exactly, which, is that the gym office? I don't even know where that one's from. But that's what all the new framing and the new, you can see all the wires and everything going out as well. So if you get a chance, take a loop around the building on your way out tonight. It might be a little bit harder maybe this week, but it's going fast. Demo's going fast. And so what we'll do is it's gone, and we're even removing asbestos as late as yesterday, or abatement. So we couldn't take any sort of tours, but we will do one before the July meeting if you guys are up for it. We'll meet at 5 o'clock or whatever it might be and take a walk through that.
Cross that off my question list.
Oh, yeah. And then strategic plans. Sure, past that. All right, just a few updates with strategic plan this month. Obviously, there's a lot going on in May. The one is we're continuing to dive in, and I know for student achievement, we look at a lot of times, we look at that summative data, right? What we call summative data is those big tests, map testing, state report card, all of those things. What we're really looking at within the classroom, and what Carrie and her team are working on with teachers, is looking at that day-to-day data and looking at making those small interventions along the way so that we can hit on those skills of need, right? So looking at how that works in a simple format, in an exit ticket, or a simple little 2-3 question quiz, or a writing project, things like that, so teachers can see where those students lie and intervene before we get to those big summative assessments, right? Enhanced learning opportunities. I know we talked a lot about different our different encore and exploratory course options. Mrs. Goldman and Mrs. Dean, our counselor and math interventionist, did a survey of students to find out kind of where their interests would be in exploratory classes. By far and away, the highest interests were in STEM classes. So we're looking at every way possible to add anything science or technology related into those exploratory classes. And then we also found a way to do the state requirements, which are Holocaust education, health, and financial literacy. So we have teachers who are, voluntarily taking those on, and then we also have people like Anna Mulgard and Sarah Gilmore and others who have volunteered to teach an exploratory class, whether it be cooking or like a home improvement class,
Is that for
financial
next
literacy.
year? Not this upcoming year.
This upcoming year, yes.
Oh. We got to pick our electives. I didn't
Yeah, I
see
didn't
any of
see
those
those.
on
So
there.
the exploratory, so there's a difference between electives and exploratory. The exploratory classes, the kids will all take because they're more recommended, like they're
okay.
required. So the health, Holocaust, like that stuff, they have to take, and then the electives, they need to pick a different one. So the exploratory classes will loop within that kind of wheel, if you will.
Got it.
Yeah, so we're looking, oh, great. Am I outdated? Oh, okay. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention was, we're working on a back-to-school checklist for the systems to facilitate efficient operations. So that's, again, one of those deals where Tom and Carrie have worked hard on, is this all of us? Which one did I click on, Ollie?
Yeah, that's the, Carrie probably just reformatted,
Yeah.
that she shared, that she was going to. If you go to 23-24, that should go like the one we used to have. The bottom.
Yeah, so if you look at this, this is all things that we need to do to get ready for the school year, that's it.
Correct.
So, and then who's responsible for it? And then we have a similar one, that we will do for registration, for families, and then another one for teachers as well. So, pretty cool system of operation. I told Tina it wouldn't take too long, so I'll stop there. I still took too long.
Yeah, I have your start time.
But it's good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now I'm done.
Sure. All right, moving on to number 9, R&R insurance proposal.
Hello, insurance,
So-
insurance, introduce them.
Insurance. What happened was, EMC came up with a 33% increase from last year, which we already had a 15% increase last year. And just so happened, these gentlemen called me and said, hey, would you like to have a proposal? So I've been talking to them back and forth, getting information back and forth for a month or two.
I go with you over on that,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit more.
And then Joanne said, hey, I know insurance, can I help you out? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So we've all gotten together and she reviewed, a multitude of all of the insurance that we have. Now, this is property and liability, auto. It has nothing to do with the staff, benefits. So this is insurance benefits. This is just for the liability and the property and, auto.
Workman's comp.
And workers.
So I'll let them introduce themselves. They
Sure.
are from R&R Insurance, and I could have actually called a whole bunch of insurance companies, but they were persistent, and they said they absolutely could help us out, so here they are.
I think we did. So this is David, I'm Paul. We do have a school practice group at R&R Insurance. We've been doing this for about 15 years. The company that we represent, one of them, we represent quite a few. The main one is Community Insurance Corporation, and the nice thing with working with them is they're a non-for-profit organization. They only work with public entities in the state of Wisconsin. So when you have non-for-profit, that helps with pricing and with renewals. And by the way, Sue sold herself short. She worked very hard on this. We went back and forth many times with a lot of information, so she worked hard. And ultimately, we came up with a program. When I talk about insurance, I usually explain it as 3 major things. For those of you that maybe aren't as familiar with insurance, it's your coverages. Well, let's start with the most important thing. It's your premium. And then your coverages and the services. And, we concentrate a lot on premiums, and, starting with that, I think we're gonna be saving around $20,000. Is that right, David?
A little bit over $20,000.
And we've matched coverages and we've improved coverages. A couple things that we've improved is your cyber program. You get sublimits $10,000-ish, even though you have an aggregate for the year of $1 million. We're gonna give you $500,000. It's actually pretty dramatic because Community Insurance Corporation, again, because they're a non-for-profit, they can do special things. Their goal is just to help public entities in the state of Wisconsin. So they'll insure, like I said, cities, villages, a lot of counties, and school districts, and some towns. They were able to give you guys a much better cyber program at no cost. And So R&R, you know, we'll work with a lot of different districts. I know that Jack called a couple checking up on us, and I think it was maybe Wheatland, or maybe it was Springland, something like that. But we work with a lot in this area, mainly southeastern Wisconsin, but we work with the whole state. See, Community Insurance Corporation has about 155 school districts. So with the savings and the increased coverages, and hopefully we answered all your questions, Joanne. If you have
You know,
more.
there's always more, but.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have 30 like the payables, but we can certainly.
32.
32? Okay. My background, just about me, is I've been doing this for like 15 years. My background's in a CPA. I went to R&R Insurance. I used R&R Insurance when I was a CFO and owned a couple businesses, and they were hiring for a CFO. So I went for the CFO, and they said, "Hey, you want to be an insurance agent?" And I said, "No, don't want to be an insurance agent." Well, a year later, I was an insurance agent. Here I am 15 years later. So I don't know. I think we can bring a good program to you. If you have any questions beyond that, I want to talk about the premium. I know we didn't talk too much about the coverages. I think our deductibles are all better. But go ahead, Joanne.
So you have two different columns for your quotes.
Yeah.
One is including Chubb and SFR,
Yeah.
and then one is CIC does everything.
Yes. Well, not the work comp. We're bringing in SFM, State Farm Mutual.
Oh.
Great. One of my favorite work comp carriers.
State
And
Farm
you're recording
Mutual.
this. Hopefully, the other guys aren't listening, but they do a great service work, and their claims adjusting is excellent too. They actually have a group of claims adjusters that are just for school districts. But yeah, so the reason there's the two columns is because originally when we met with Jack and Susan, we only had Chubb. I get back to the office and CIC says, "Okay, we're ready now." And I said, "Well, we already presented to them." But then we contacted them and we said, "You know what, this quote's a lot better, so we're gonna go through with it." And so we did the deductibles, only $5,000 instead of $25,000. The rate is about the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about it I really like. I love the separation of insurance. I love the, I'm gonna give you an insurance 101.
All right.
There's two different kinds of liability policies. There's an occurrence form, where if you have a claim, it must occur during the policy period. So if 6 months after that policy expires, somebody comes back and says, "Hey, this happened," you have coverage. As long as it would be covered anyways. The other one is claims made. Claims made mean there says the event has to happen and be reported during that policy period. That's kind of tight and tough because if tonight we did something wrong, by the time somebody went got an attorney and said, "Hey, you guys, you were wrong, you the board," they're into the next policy already. So there would, by an unmodified claims made policy, there would be no coverage for that. So sadly, our current policy does not correct it. And it could and it should, and I'm surprised that this agent hasn't addressed it. But you can add a retro date, which makes it retroactive to whatever that date might be. And the CIC has an unlimited retro date.
Did read
So
policy.
that is a big, that is really big, because you don't know when something is gonna happen.
Does that increase our premium to have that, or is that included in it?
It's part of their policy. Their policy is strange in comparison to what's out on the street. Most policies are written by insurance service office, and therefore you don't have to read every page like I did. But there are a lot of really good things. There's a few that I'm not thrilled about, but I don't know that they're deal breakers. But I do have a question about the violent acts endorsement. Because, and I don't know why I couldn't print that, but everybody that has it
Do you want mine?
see.
Is this
I
what you're
actually
referring-
highlighted it in yours. So the endorsement says, for violent acts, we're gonna cover $25,000 per person, no more than 100,000. So your aggregate's 100,000, that's not very much. I mean, even if somebody came into the school, I hope it never happens. But let's say with an unloaded weapon, and scares the daylights out of everybody, our site care would exceed that, right? So, in the CIC program, the actual policy, it did not see an exclusion for it. However, the endorsement says, be careful, because this may limit your coverage.
So the violent acts coverage is no fault. So it's only in there just, because if you would have a violent act, it's gonna take a while to figure out who was negligent and how it's gonna pay out. Maybe it takes a year, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. So what we wanna do, the reason that's there, is just a little bit of money that gets paid out to the people that were harmed, regardless of negligence. So, you know, if there was a violent act and needed counseling or something else, it's no fault. You're gonna get that money immediately to help the situation.
And is there a way to increase that limit, or that's all
That's
they
their
give?
standard.
And I assume UM that's all they offer too.
Yep, and it is. And you probably know why. I mean, the standard is usually $1 million or $100,000. If you did have a uninsured or underinsured motorist claim, you still have your physical damage coverage, right? That's not gonna affect that for you.
Right?
But the uninsured or underinsured is if somebody else hit you, right? And if there was some bodily injury to the other parties, we do have that $100,000 to help out, but most of the time it's gonna be someone driving, and it's gonna be a work comp claim if it's an employee. Now, you could have someone else in the car, like you guys were talking about, you have a parent driving and you reimburse, that could be looked at as maybe working for the school because you're reimbursing them, right? You know, there's gonna be other coverages that come in there if they're hit by an uninsured, underinsured. It can even go back to their personal lines policy that we've seen over the years. So, we look at that as saying, okay, we're gonna provide something for an uninsured, underinsured motorist claim, but for the most part, you're gonna find coverage.
Did I misread it? I thought it said 25,000 per person, 50,000 per accident.
Let me look at
100.
this.
50 and 100 for UIM. And while you look, I'm gonna tell you a just ridiculous thing that happened.
All right,
This woman rose a stop sign,
you are correct, I'm sorry.
and my insured hits her, T-bones her. She just didn't stop, and she didn't make it. But her 6-year-old in the back seat was seriously injured. The woman had no insurance, and so my insured got sued under the UMUIM for the child. We didn't even know them. The mom was wrong. These things happen. That's why that's really alarming to me, because I think you have to plan for what ifs.
Yeah, so it's 25, for uninsured is 25,000 per occurrence, 50,000 aggregate.
Yeah.
Underinsured is 50,000 per occurrence, $100,000 aggregate.
So your final quote is the one CIC and State Farm Mutual, that's it.
Yes,
Okay,
CIC on the
So Chubb
property.
is out of it.
Yeah, well, that's our recommendation.
Okay.
I think the coverages and the deductibles, I know the coverages and deductibles are better with CIC.
Okay.
We just kept it in there just for historical purposes, because we had showed it to you guys.
Okay.
So CIC property, CIC liability, CIC cyber, state SFM, or our agent.
Okay. All right, anybody else have questions?
This is a lot of, I have a lot of questions, but I don't know what they are.
I was trying to
This
keep
is
it
a
brief.
lot of information
There's a lot of
to
information.
Okay.
swallow.
Would you define the difference between a terrorist act and a violent act?
Yes. In the world of insurance, you might even be able to define it better than I can, but in the world of insurance, this really started after 9/11, and so they created this but it's gotta be $100 million or higher event, certified by 3 branches of the government. Try to get 3 branches of the government. Even the Boston bombing was not a terrorist act.
Oh, I see.
Under the insurance rules, a violent act is
Right.
just more of, something violent that happened in the school, and it's not really defined as well by an ISO form. It's defined by Community Insurance Corporation. Good question.
Thank you.
So with most of our schools, we actually decline the terrorism coverage because it would have to be such a large claim.
But it's $674 annually.
Yeah,
I would just pay it because I've got off chance something random occurs for
And,
$6.
and it would actually have to be this location.
Yeah. I
Was
know
the
that's-
subject of a
So
terrorist.
it's hard.
Oh,
It'd be
we
target.
can't just be collateral damage?
No, no, that would be covered.
yeah.
I do have a couple more, and I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'll try to be fast. Backup sewers and drains. It has just nothing on your proposal under the CIC program.
Yeah, so that is one that we're looking into when we got that to you.
Okay.
Since then, we did find out that that's part of the limits, and it's $5,000 with the deductible. We're still-
5,000 is the limit?
5,000 is the deductible.
Oh, okay.
Um,
What's the limit?
That was, I just wanted to make sure that didn't change. So now that I'm saying that, I want to verify that for you.
Okay.
But that's, the last time I did a renewal with CIC, that's what it was.
Okay. And then the roof is always ACV, or is there a limit? Because a good portion of ours is brand new.
Yeah, if it's new, it's replacement cost,
But is that 15 years?
15 years.
And then the other thing that is a little limited, sprinkler leakage. I believe it said 50,000.
Sorry, what?
50,000 was the limit it chose the most it would pay its
Oh, for like a
sprinklers
pipe
leak.
burst?
Yeah.
You got that in there? I don't recall that one. But- So this was mainly the Chubb policy here.
That's where I was confused, because you, two different companies can.
Yeah, so for CIC, that's the policy deductible of 5,000, and then it follows the policy as well.
Okay.
That's on page 7.
Yeah, I don't have that one because
Oh.
it came to me too late.
You want an extra one? I printed off 8 of them.
Sure.
How many do you want might be the better question.
Yeah. No, just-
There's some bullet points to it.
All right.
The other thing that wasn't filled in there is ordinance or law,
Yeah.
which I'm sure everybody would want to know what that is, and I'm sure you know what it
That
is.
was my next one.
Yeah,
and
that's
my
the
last
policy,
one.
that's the policy limits.
Okay. And you
Which
said
is good.
violent acts can't be increased.
No.
That's all you get.
Yep. And remember, that's just no fault. Ultimately, you have your $6 million of coverage to protect the district, and if we are negligent,
It's just the endorsement, the actual endorsement says something different. And that's why I highlighted it for Sue and I highlighted it for Tina, because it says this may limit your actual coverage. So.
yeah, I can have one of the writers of the policy, verify that in writing with me.
All right, I'm done. Sorry.
That's good, though.
Don't
Thank you.
apologize.
For a little bit of a challenge.
Is the $20,000 savings comparatively to the year we're in now, or compared to what our renewal was going to be?
Yeah, this was, compared to the renewal, is a very good question. Correct. You know, we talked about SFW mutual and workers' comp. They're offered a 15% dividend. Very simple terms. Dividend money is you're actually getting back, predicated on the payroll, whereas the EMC was at 10%. So that's factored in all covered lives, everything annualized out the door.
The interesting thing though is that, I was just looking at this on page 4, your expiring is $87,852, and the renewal is $83,413, so you're actually lower than, by about $5,000 in the prior year.
Yeah, the renewal, actually, I increased the limits to compare.
Yes, we did want to talk about that, right?
So in comparison, using $325 a square foot, which I think you have an option here with me, sir. It came to the whole EMC renewal $114,550, and yours came to. Did I do this right?
If you had the one from Sue, I just showed you how much additional it would be. I use 330, so it add about $8,400 to the premium,
Okay,
which
Yes, I'm
is,
just curious.
so what is your
our-
total?
What our percentage increases if we accepted this as is, we don't need to know that now, 'cause I think it's gonna be, we're gonna make a motion, that's not.
Prior to.
No, it's on the agenda.
Prior to the
No, this has to
10%.
be done before July.
300 per square feet.
Oh,
It was
based on that,
33% increase with the MC, 10% increase with R&I
From last year's premium.
from last year.
Do you feel comfortable without the clarity on the violent acts?
Well, I would like to see that at a higher limit, but, so you were nice enough to send somebody else's total policy, which I sadly don't have a life, so I read every page. I mean, I really did read every page. I did not find an exclusion for violent acts in the home policy, but I don't like that in the endorsement. So, if you can double check and,
Yeah.
We can get something clarifying that in writing, I'm good.
So the actual amount, for the premium is closer to 90,000.
That's further,
Is that right?
further
That's
down.
exactly right,
But-
not factoring in the dividend that comes after the policy term, after it's called the audit, you're 100% correct.
And that is subject to losses, the dividend?
Nope, it's a flat dividend, so you could have, bad workers' comp claims, you don't obviously want that to happen, but claims happen, if you had some unfortunate claims, you still would get that 15% flat dividend.
Okay.
You're the expert.
Well, and that's why I say there's some good, there's some bad. This company is a B-plus rated carrier. I usually only work with A carriers, but they were B-minus last year, so they're coming up, which is a good sign. And I think there's just no slam dunk perfect ending. So, I came up with 86,593 for your totals, adding in the 8,413,
8413
which
plus.
was the increase for the $330 per square foot.
Are you adding that, onto after the dividend is factored in? Because that would seem.
Oh, you know what I did? I did the Chubb CIC one. So we're at 41, it's all 41.9 plus 42. Oh, I got one. Thank you. Okay, so we came up to roughly 90.
Is there more for the
Right.
proposal, or more to provide?
Anything else you'd like to present?
Yeah, if you add that in, it's about 92,000. And your expiring is about 88. So about $4,000 more.
Well, it's big that we have the retro coverage.
One of the
The-
main concerns with workers' comp is we currently have nurses on call, so if somebody does have an accident, we, have them sit down with their supervisor and contact them, and they take care of all the paperwork. And they have assured me that the new workers' comp has the same program,
Yeah.
so
I
that
saw
was
it.
our concern.
Trin, I was gonna add to that though, is that CIC hasn't been rated for probably 5 to 7 years.
You know, I looked them up, and it's so funny because my professional designation is CIC.
Yeah.
I
So it might have been
looked
a
them up.
different CIC. They stopped getting
So
rated,
the
they were always B plus. But then what happened was is because they are not diversified to
Yeah.
other companies like EMC does, manufacturing companies, construction companies, all those kind of things. They only do public entities and only in the state of Wisconsin. So I was talking to one of the owners, and he explained to me that they just decided to stop getting that AM Best rating
Yeah.
because they were spending $50,000 to $70,000 on it. They're never going to be better than B plus. So then what we did is we went to the OCI, and that's where they get their rating. So So they've got favorable rating with the Office of Commissioner of Insurance in the state of Wisconsin, I can send that letter.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, what I found was not terrible. I mean, when you see it's at a B and going down to a C, and it's avoided on us.
Right, yeah, and they're not, they've always been B plus, until they said, we're not doing it anymore.
Okay.
Did you want that letter, though? I can get that to you, you all. or you
No,
just-
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I just wanted to point out, because I don't wanna make all the decisions, or sound like I'm making all the decisions, so I was trying to point out the things that were different. That's
Appreciate
what I
it.
know.
And I have worked with EMC, for 25 years, and they're a great company. But with the way the budget's going, I think it might be time for a change.
It's always a good thing to review the policies and update your coverage, especially now that we have a big, beautiful school and.
Well, that was the biggest thing for me is, I mean, $228 a square foot, just,
And
I just can't imagine, God forbid, something were to happen to this building, and we just ask the taxpayers for $22.5 million, and our insurance claim is for $18.5 million or whatever it is, we just built a brand new beautiful school and we wouldn't be able to build half of it, so.
it actually gets worse than that, because there's co-insurance.
No, EMC had full insurance, we don't have full insurance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 10, public comments. Sure.
Just here for the show. I don't know.
Speech?
Yeah.
All right, moving on to number 11, discussion items. Committee updates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drive safe. If we could get a committee update from Joanne, please, for the finance committee.
Yes, Stephen and I have come up with some ideas for starting topics, and, I have reached out and confirmed with Leslie Adams that she would love to be in our committee, and we just need to pin down a date and time. So
Great.
hopefully get that done in the next one.
Okay. Perfect. Policy committee, Nicole.
We have 4 people we have to figure out who we're gonna go for. And then we have Monday or Tuesday to do. And then, we have rules. Jackie gave me some information on Lola. I think the only other thing I would like is to know if I know you're looking for the policy, yeah, the contract, sorry. What it would be for a charge if we went with a group of policies that we need to either update, or is it just only one section we need to, or?
I think, is it by time?
Is it hourly?
I think,
It's
so,
hourly.
yeah, so usually what happens is we get the, whatever it was, I sent $1,500, I think is
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
for the annual fee.
Right.
And then each time, so they don't, with that, we get the 2 annual updates. In October, he sends a spreadsheet that we just pick a date and time and meet with them, usually October, sometimes early November. And then that happens again in the spring and April usually.
But that's already what the 2
Those are the
payments,
2
right?
payments are.
Okay,
Are-
so I'm
so,
just wondering
yeah.
what that extra payment possibly
So then
could
anytime
be.
in between when we do like the little, like, even if, let's say, you're after those updates when I come, then they send, like, Gene will reach out to Tim and say, hey, is this worded okay, or we want it switched to this? Then they bill us for service agent hours or something like that, I think it is, almost like a lawyer would. Like, it's like a service agent hours, so I think if you have 1 request and it takes them 15 minutes, there's a charge. If you have 30 requests and it takes them 3 hours, the charge would be bigger.
It's
That's,
like 78.
and then we
78
always get
an hour.
nailed by the, I won't say what I really feel about board docs, but, we always get nailed by board doc update, you know, of their online platform fee. And that's to this point, if anybody wants to start a side business in retirement or otherwise, I'd be up for it. Because Board Docs has a monopoly pretty much in that, unless you wanna do it all yourself, which would be really, really hard. But they're, in my opinion, they're expensive and they're inefficient, but that's my 2 cents.
I'm just thinking, cause one of my first goals was to get through the finance section, the 6,000. Cause I figured it would help finance, and if there's changes, we might have to do special.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the only thing I was looking at.
I do have an email out to Bill because Blair's does a continuous, they do Neola and Board Docs, but they have a continuous policy committee where they're continuously reviewing, of how they get around those extra charges. And it
Yes,
may
but I
just be
think
with the
their-
with the
their
contract.
is
Yeah.
different than ours.
And that's probably true.
Or
To
did review
compare the two, is
Read
what,
their website,
It
and
would
they
be
have different
nice.
tiers.
Because I think what happened at one point was that, and I should actually call Dr. Mills, because he's really good at policy
I
and
did
knows all
talk to
those
Mr.
things
Mills.
about the contract, or.
He said he's on the beach, he'll call me later. He did.
Because if he had that contract, somewhere, and we had like the Cadillac package that we were paying for but not using because we didn't have a policy committee, then it didn't make any sense.
Right.
But if we're going to have more changes or more reviews, I agree 100% that if there was a contract where we could, you know, up the overall price but get unlimited usage of our agent, that would make a lot more sense. Yeah.
At least for the first year. Once everything gets in, then it's just a rolling
Yeah.
continuation. Okay, have either of you guys talked about dates and times of when you have that nailed down, if you could let me know so I can post it on the board website, please. Alright, moving on to 12, action items, 12.8, food service policy.
All right, so in May, what is it, every 5 years?
Yes,
Jean?
every 5 years.
Every 5 years, the DPI comes and they do an official audit of your food service program, meaning they look at everything, every thermostat, every piece of food, every calorie, every menu item, every piece of financial bits. Needless to say, it's pretty nerve-wracking for the gals who have a small program and kind of do their own thing and obviously do a nice job. But they were here for 2 days. I sat in at the end of the second day, and our meeting with them at the end of the second day was 20 minutes. I mean,
Wow.
it was that good. The only thing that really came of significance was that our policy, which they read through, needed to be changed because of state statute, and we were out of state statute in regards to the new updates with food service compliance, I guess you
Isn't
could
this a
say.
Neola policy?
So this was,
Yeah. So Neola didn't tell us that it was out of whack?
Unless it's not
They
upcoming
recommended
changes, that's a
different
good question.
wording within the policy as per the nutritional type wording is what they would like to see within this contract.
and it was, I think, as early as last spring
Yes.
that they did this.
Yes.
And to be honest,
And they know, and Neola knows about it.
they,
So I think it's what we need to do.
I have to form a committee and get it.
Yeah, it's just
So-
concerning that Neola didn't
Drop the
reach out
ball
and
on
say,
it.
hey, this is
And they
coming
should've.
up and this is what we're finding. looked at a whole bunch of other policies. So it's just concerning. Well, I mean, we have a policy committee. I
But it's
love the
something that
idea
has to-
of regular reviews because things change.
And I wish we had access to the changes that were wrote on here sooner, because I did compare it to, what was this, New Berlin. And they already have, like, the amounts written in their Neola policy. So I'm surprised ours was,
What do you mean?
like, it, well, it's, they haven't, changed, right, if we take out that, the municipal bubble, and put an actual amount. So Berlin actually has an amount.
Oh. When, does it say when it's supposed to be released?
They might have been reviewed and informed that they needed to change it.
Like if they did their audit last year?
A question for Tim though would be, why weren't we informed last year?
Or even just so much this a couple months ago, right?
I don't know when these. Yeah, and I also don't know how much DPI fills in Neola on what they're changing.
Good question for Neola.
Unless it's a charge to ask them.
Well, I don't think it should be, if their services that they provide is that they're going to make sure that we're in compliance with Wisconsin statutes, we weren't.
Well, that's right.
So,
And
I
they
mean,
should-
And I don't know, I'm saying Wisconsin statute, but that's, it might be there's a difference between Wisconsin statute and DPI
right,
recommendations.
best practice, so.
Best practice. So, my understanding was Wisconsin state statute, if this is just best practice, then I don't know that,
Yeah.
I'm just doing what the lady told me to do.
Right.
So we don't know if these changes are Neola.
I mean, do you guys disagree with the changes,
Oh, no,
or
no,
are we
no.
just picking apart Neola at this point?
Yeah, we're just
Okay.
attacking Neola.
Well, we're questioning where it all came from. Yeah.
Would Neola just have to, once if we approve this, does
I
Neola?
don't know the answer.
Yes, but if we approve this, then Neola has to put the stamp on it and then we put it in place, right? Okay.
Well, and that might all help too, when you review the Neola contract or whoever's gonna do that and look at what kind of package and what are they gonna do for us? 'Cause I think you said we used to be like in gold or platinum and now we're down in silver,
Yeah.
whatever they call it.
Yeah, I don't know that answer either.
So reading this, I don't have any qualms with it how it is now. We'll review it more fully and hear from Neola's feedback, but unless there's any other discussion, I can make a motion to approve the updated.
I get,
There's not really an update, it's, I mean, there is, but isn't. So, I don't, who wrote this on here?
I did. The only thing we are looking at, when we went through these policies as a team before, the questions there are what we discussed at that meeting. So that is something that needs to be, figured out. But what this, yes, what the state is, or what, when we had our audit for the lunch program, what the ladies from DPI recommended, Jack, if you could scroll up, please, is the wording, yeah, there, that wording. That is what they are recommending that we change. And that Neola is aware of these changes, but I don't know for sure if Neola has updated our policy, I guess, on this change.
it's in the next update.
Yeah, if it's in the next update or what, I'm not sure.
How fast do we have to have this, like, fixed?
Well,
They
this
say.
was one of our dings when we had three of them that we were dinged on. We have this one, the wellness policy, which we have to have a committee for and go over that whole policy. And then there was one other one, I'm not sure which one it was, but she has approved this. I have sent this to her. the nutritional lady, and she has it all marked down that we're good for passing our, whatever, you know, our audit and everything, that we are good with this. But we have to get this approved or changed with Neola.
In what kind of time frame?
Yeah, that's what I.
She really didn't give us a time frame. We told her that it would probably be by September.
Oh, good, okay.
And there's nothing, there's no penalty.
Right.
It's just that this was just the
Yeah, let's
suggested
make this
changes
one,
from the DPI leading nutritionist. And my assumption is that this came after we met with Tim from the update. So we wouldn't see this again until September or October when we meet with Neola again.
Got it.
So she basically said, this is what you're gonna have to change. This is what I suggest changing. If we change it, I guess, I don't know.
Three birds all at one
Flying
time.
into the
Three.
wind.
Yeah, but we can wait.
Can we
Yeah.
make a, just, I don't know, if we can make a motion to just table this
Yeah.
until we get more clarification?
I'll make a motion to table it until the August meeting for after the policy, but prior to the school year.
So, do you want me to reach out to Tim, or are we just,
What's the information we're
See
looking
if he's
for?
made any changes.
So just check in with Neola to see if they approve it, or?
If they approve it, if it goes by the state guidelines that is required, do
if
Neola.
there's
or-
anyone out there in the
Yeah,
office,
or
right?
if they missed us making changes.
Yeah, just see what they've got as far as a revised policy.
Yeah.
And if they haven't
Just a
touched it, you
suggestion,
should tell
if
them.
you guys are gonna be reviewing this in your committee, maybe we shouldn't have a bunch of people come.
Yeah, we'll make this one like the first.
Good idea.
And then, Jean mentioned another policy that,
Wellness.
wellness, so.
Yeah, we need to, that's,
Whenever we got data.
that one we're aware of, and that's just me not from me yet. So, and that's something that we made aware of, that we have to go through, and there's a whole series of things you have to do. You have to have there's like 9 people or something that you have to have on it and check on, each of it. So, we've reviewed that as a board before, but it's been a while. So, that just needs to happen.
Do I have a second on the motion that's on the,
I will second your motion.
any other discussions, we should do discussions after, not before, but any other discussions before we take a vote? No? No? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Any nays? Motion carried 5-0.
So we'll put that on, let's start with, well, do we want that as a future agenda item, or do we want just the policy committee to review that, or both?
I would say the policy committee first, if you can give the answers to them.
The policy committee can then
Have it ready for
pick,
Revise it.
put when it's on the agenda, or at whatever. We can
Perfect.
talk to Tina and I for the agenda, how's that sound? Okay, good by me.
Is that okay, Jean? Yeah. Okay. Moving on to 12E, budget line adjustment 23-24.
I intentionally left out funds 10 and 27 because we have some last minute, changes to, account numbers, and where we're charging things, and of course, the bills are coming in for the end of June, so I will hold that off until July. And that's fine with the auditors, we won't get dinged for holding it off till July. So in here, I've got, the debt service, the non-referendum, we were 50 cents shy, but we will still get dinged if we don't increase it by $1. The debt service for the referendum, the account number changes, for the prepayment of debt, the defeasance. I needed to switch where we had the money, and we were $29.95 short. Capital improvements, we spent more than the, draw that they had originally given us back in August. So I had to up that and I increased it even more so just in case they get more bills in before June 30th. To 3 million. It just means we spent more than their original draw schedule.
That's just the referendum.
That's the referendum.
Okay,
for all
that's
the
not
capital improvements.
operating or anything,
No, no,
okay.
no, no.
Okay.
We're not even talking about operating this month. And then food services, that's just putting the, amounts in the correct account numbers. And we had that leftover amount of 28,000 in capital equipment to cover it. That was the money that was left over from, the funds for delivery and, issues during COVID. So it's not really ESSER funds, but you could call it COVID funds. So there was supply and delivery monies that we received, and Jack just sent another one, or I don't know how much it was, it 6,000? 5,800. So we got that money in there, so we still have a balance in food services. And we're just shifting the amounts, but it does not change anything of the expenses. So then when that gets passed, we have to publish it in the newspaper. And this is how it gets published, according to how our annual meeting is defined. And these are the amounts that would go into the annual meeting. And the differences and how it would change the fund balances. And since food services is not changing their expenditures or their revenues, I don't have to do anything here.
She doesn't have to do the public. Notice. I know it's not standard. Is it, do any other schools publish just a few sentences of commentary to help lay people read this when they receive
They
it?
could, we could. You're not required, but you
Yeah.
could.
Might be something just to consider, 3 or 4 sentences, maybe not on this one, but the next one, so that the average person can say, when they see like a negative 3 million, they're probably like, huh, you could just do a couple sentences, but that's not required, that's not doing it.
Okay, I will keep that in mind
Yeah.
in the future. For the general fund, it would probably be
Yeah.
very helpful.
Do we have a motion to approve the budget line adjustments for 23-24?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget line adjustment for 23-24 as presented.
Do we have a second? Crickets? I'll second. Any discussion?
Yeah, can I just, so Fund 10 and 27, you're saying we're gonna review that when?
Next month. And I'll get it to you way ahead of time because it's almost every single line item.
Okay, so next month, meaning, do we have a budget workshop still the
Yes.
first week of July?
July 1.
First.
Can we have it then, or is that too soon?
Yes,
Oh, we could have it then?
yeah, that's 2 weeks.
That'd be great. Okay,
That's
thank
good.
you. Yeah, fantastic.
All right, no more discussion? Are there any more discussions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried 5-0. Moving on to 12C, property liability insurance renewal for 24-25.
All right, I know, Joanne, this is gonna sound bad, and I know that you don't, want to sound like you're making a decision at this point, but I think everybody in the room has looked to you for your expertise in
Well,
this.
And yeah.
I guess my recommendation coming, just, I've learned a ton from you, first of all, so thank you. My recommendation coming in was to go with their proposal. At this point, I honestly trust your decision at this point. If you feel as if, my recommendation would go with R&R, but I don't know, I guess I wouldn't know enough to say no at this point, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm not uncomfortable with them. Like I pointed out,
So what happens there?
Well, it depends on exactly how their violent acts, coverage reads. I'm not very familiar with that. I don't like the endorsements that say, in there, they don't say the words, be careful. It says, by selecting this endorsement, you might be losing some of your underlying coverage. If it says that, they don't usually joke around, so, he's gonna get verification of it.
So could you not accept the endorsement for violent act, but then the workers' comp supersedes everything?
Well, workers' comp has always hurt employees. But you have a room full of 20 kids that somebody comes in with a squirt gun that looks like a real gun, and mental trauma happens, even though it wasn't. I'm not sure how that coverage works.
So interesting note, because when that young student brought in a weapon and then shot the teacher, they're trying to claim it. I thought what was interesting is the district is trying to claim it under workers' comp, because that's where they're trying to push it versus like a violent act.
It is, if it was an employee of the school, employees
workers'
are
comp.
always covered by workers' comp, no exception.
If it's a student, then it's different, or somebody just off the street that doesn't get paid by the school.
So Joanne,
So-
when you look at EMC
Yeah.
coverage versus the R&R from this same respect,
Yeah.
what do you see?
Well, I liked very much that the EMC agent answered the questions that I had and gave a proposal of options to increase those coverages, both the violent acts and the uninsured, underinsured. And then that all being said, do you, it's really hard to say. I mean, 6 of one and half a dozen. There's problems in our EMC. Remember I said our Arizona emissions insurance is scary, terrible. You can't have that. We don't know when something's gonna happen. And it needs to cover retroactive back. So the new company says, we'll cover 6 million, unlimited retro. So that would go back and protect the last board, the board before that, should something come up. That's probably the right thing to do, but I'm just reviewing, I haven't spoken with the agents. If I had done that, I would have asked the EMC guy why he did that. Maybe they don't offer it, or maybe it was an oversight. And if they offer it, how much is it? EMC is an excellent company, and I've actually worked with them for a good portion of my career. But the other one gives pretty comprehensive stuff. You know, I could spend an hour explaining all the different coverages, and you don't wanna hear it.
Is
But-
EMC a much bigger company? than R&R?
Yeah. So, and I don't know how big.
The small insurance company, I'm speaking.
I've never
Way
heard
out
of.
of turn here, it just concerns me.
Yeah, I've never heard of CIC before, but you said Wheatland is with them? Or he said you talked to Wheatland and then?
The R&R, when
Oh.
R&R gave us the recommend, or when they came in, I think they've been making their way around southeastern Wisconsin, and their prices, a lot of people are in the same boat we are, right? And $20,000 here and $25,000 there is a big deal, and I think because they're a little smaller, because they're able to work with some of these different companies and shape, they've started to grow their clientele, because especially in small districts like this, where $25,000 is a big deal when you're talking about it in the grand scheme of things. In a lot of the bigger districts, they need that huge umbrella of insurance, and the Wheatlands and the Randalls and the Bristol of the world see a fairly comparable or comparable insurance package that's $25,000 less, and almost always lean that way, and that's why they're starting to build with districts like ours. Randall and Bob and Marty out at Wheatland and at Randall have both moved to R&R is what I was referring to earlier.
Oh, but
So-
we don't know who they're with.
I don't know what their
And
package is as
R&R
far
is
as.
the agency.
Correct, yeah. So I don't know what
Mm.
they did as far as the CIC or the, you know, what their actual package looks like. I just know that R&R was their agency that they went over to.
This decision has to be made by the end of the month. Is that correct?
Well, so if we don't decide, we automatically renew.
Yeah.
Because they have to give us written notice 60 days in advance if they have any plans of getting rid of us. Which I assume they haven't because they give us a quote. I'm sure you would have told us if you got that.
How long, when did we get this quote from EMC, or ENC? A couple months ago? And that's how long I've been in touch with her.
So, you know, we're mingling board policies, and I think I told you board policy 6320 says anything over 25,000, we need 3 bids. So you did really good getting a competing one, and I really want to work when things slow down and writing scope, an RFP. if you
An
will.
RFP for next year.
So that it's easy for you to say, do we have this? Or we need this, does your code have this? And
With a
then I can
matrix.
show you and bam, bam, bam.
Exactly.
It also makes it easier for 3 agents to get a quote.
I originally wasn't looking for a new company. I
Yeah.
was just trying to compare prices. Hey, you know,
Yeah.
what do you think? Because I've been very comfortable, I've been very pleased with EMC service. I've worked with Brandy,
Yeah.
and Melody forever. So I really wasn't looking for another company. When I said to Jack, you know, they came in at 33% increase
Yeah.
after last year's 15%, you know, should I even look at R&R? And go, sure, why not?
It's
So really, it was just out of curiosity, what you got going? And it just kind of snowballed into oh my gosh, you have good coverage on this. We have $100,000 of cyber coverage right now.
Yeah, but
That's it.
he gave us a quote for an option of going to $1 million, $27.60. So I like that. We asked the questions and he said, here, if you want this, if you want that, do that. Here's my recommendation. I think this is far too much information to like shove down your throat in an hour meeting or in a day. And I think that as much as we don't ever want to do this, our workshop, you know, because the insurance expires or renews on July 1st, we happen to have a workshop that day. I would be happy to dig in deeper and clarify some things. I'm a little concerned about the size because I know I looked them up and it said B+. So if they chose to not be rated, it's a symptom of a very small company. And that doesn't make it bad, but I kind of want to look a little bit deeper.
I like the idea of more research. Can we meet via Zoom next week? Because cutting it to July 1st, that's the expiration.
that's too close.
Yeah, we can't do that. Could you designate back and forth with the reps and then meet via Zoom next week?
Well, here's what I was getting at. We can already have updates, but we vote on it July 1st in our meeting.
I don't know that that would give enough time to Randy to let him know that we're not going with them, or that, I mean, he will just assume that we're going with them.
37 years in the business. I swear to you, if we reach out to him and ask him several questions, if he can pick up the retro date, if he can show us that we have that, if he can, did you ask him to shave any premium?
Shave the
Because you know we
premium.
do that.
He said that's the best he could do.
Okay, okay. And then
He
let's.
did come up on the, workers' comp, what do you call it, premium? Dividend?
Yeah.
He originally said 7%. He did come
Oh.
up to the 10%.
Okay. Okay. I feel like there's just, you know.
There's so many unanswered
There's
questions
a few
to
more
vote on
unanswered
this.
questions and, you know, I can email you my questions and you can send them out. But I feel like there's there's some big gaps that make it hard for me to say, this is the one.
Fair to me.
I think that's a plan.
Just- Never had somebody with 37 years
I
of
know.
insurance
You-
experience
you
on the
gave-
board before.
Yeah,
I
you
know.
gave him a run for his money. Can, so I guess maybe meet with him next week?
Yeah, I'll
Or you
send
want-
out
We'll just have to notify and have a conversation on insurance. Because it's either A, we go with EMC, it'll be a little bit of a higher price point, but we feel more comfortable with company and coverage. Or it's B, there's gonna be a cost savings and we're also comfortable with equitable coverage. Okay.
Yeah, there's not enough time to see options.
And unfortunately with insurance, it's always like worst case scenarios is what you're trying to balance, so.
Well, yeah.
And then it's district liability.
And I don't think those guys are used to it either, right? Like,
Yeah.
they sent it at 9 o'clock this morning,
Yeah.
you know, because they were expecting to come here and have a group of people that had no idea of insurance and say, oh, it's $25,000 less. Sure, that's our recommendation, which
Yeah, just wanna be sure.
probably would have happened if Joanne wasn't here, to be honest, right? So, I'm good with that.
So what's the recommendation as far as when we decide?
So I'm going to make a motion that we will meet next week, for a Zoom meeting. I'll send out, if you guys can give me like 3 times that you can try to work it out.
Probably, I would say, at least like Wednesday or Thursday, so we have
Time to get the
time to
answers.
look at
Yeah,
the
for sure.
answers, so later in the week.
Sounds good.
So what date are we thinking?
We'll work that out of the
Okay.
meeting. Do I have a second on my motion to resume that
I'll
for
second
Zoom?
it, Jean.
Thank you. No other discussion on that particular item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Joanne.
Yeah, that's good. I will dig into it.
Moving on to 13, which is future agenda items. The snowplow bid, if we get that reposted, and then the academic standards for next year. That's all I have.
Seclusion and restraint report,
Oh, yeah.
Jean, I know we need to do that one.
The line item adjustments for the budget.
Line item adjustments.
And then per the DA email calendar, if we were to make any changes, they have to be in July.
For the line item adjustments, we're gonna do it the budget workshop.
Pardon me, I can't.
The line item adjustments, we're gonna do it the budget workshop.
Right,
Okay.
but you can't approve it there, right?
And then in the workshop.
Fine.
We can just put it on, yeah, I mean, we'll
Okay.
talk about it, but we'll
Thanks.
make it action during the regular season, the regular board meeting.
Got it, thanks.
The heat does funny things to brains in the evening, you know. Okay.
Danielle, did you say something? That's still.
District administrator
The
evaluation
calendar.
calendar.
Yeah, the process calendar.
Alright, number 14, convey into closed session. The board will convey into closed session under Wisconsin statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, performance, evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility.
I'll make a motion to do so.
I'll second.
All
We
in
have to turn off our.
Tony says
favor?